Joining me right now, a man who has written a very interesting book. It's a baseball book, but it's also a novel. It's called The Man with Two Arms, about a pitcher who can throw equally well with the right or left arm, and kind of a story about his family as well. We're joined now by the author, Billy Lombardo, today from the great city of Chicago. Billy, thanks for being with us. How are you?
I'm great, Doug. Thanks for the call.
Yeah, it's good to have a chance to talk to you, and getting a chance to read through the book yesterday. Myself being a baseball fan, I enjoyed reading through it, and this is about a phenomenon that I guess we've never seen in sports, a pitcher who can pitch equally well from the right side and the left side. What gave you the idea for that?
Well, there's actually, just as of late, there's a pitcher who's playing with the Yankees organization. He's a single-A player right now. He's and Joe Girardi pulled him up about 3 weeks ago, I guess, to pitch a couple innings. But so there's somewhere in the majors right now. He's about the most serious one. His name is Pat Venditti, and he's about the most serious switch pitcher that there's been yet. There's been a couple others. Greg Harris in the mid-'80s pitched, but really just in one game. But there hasn't really been anyone at the level that I have Danny Granville pitching at, though. But it was actually a little Florida connection. It was on a beach in St. Pete that I got the idea first. My son was playing catch with me and a cousin of mine, and he just started throwing the ball lefty, and he's a right-handed player. I don't know if he had a left-handed mid-on or what, but he just started throwing the ball lefty, and I was like, "Hey, Kane, that's pretty good, buddy." He was about 8 years old, and he looked pretty good, and I just thought, God, if we just focused on this, maybe he could be a switch pitcher or whatever. But he was a little too advanced as a righty at that point. But anyway, I thought it was just going to be a short story about this kid who'd be a switch pitcher, and it ended up to be. I ended up getting a little more interested in the kid's old man when and this idea of prenatal influence and his obsession with baseball and science, and so it turned out to be a little longer than a short story.
Yeah, I think that's the second really interesting part about the book. You go into his father, which I guess if it was a woman, you'd call him a stage mother, right? I mean, he's that type of dad, really involved with the kid. Maybe too much. That's up to the reader to decide. But I think that's the real interesting part of the story, is that relationship and how the father really almost groomed that child to be a baseball star before he was born, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I hoped also to make a big deal out of the importance of the parents' relationship in the life of the child too, and how the mother was in on his shaping as an artist later on in his life too.
Just getting back to a minute about the switch pitching, I know there was a tennis player a few years ago. I believe his name was Luke Jensen, who could serve equally well with the right or left arm. And there used to be a pitcher, I don't know if you remember, Billy, maybe you're not the same age as me, but Mickey Lolich, who was one of the great left-handed pitchers, but he was a natural right-hander and switched to left hand somehow later in his early life and became one of the great left-handed pitchers. But that's the only pitcher I've ever heard in the major leagues that maybe came a little bit close to this.
Yeah, I had just heard about it. I wasn't sure if it was the same player, but I had just heard about someone like that. And then the tennis, I used to coach tennis a little bit. I had actually had a pro player that I coached when she was in high school. I didn't have much to do with her progress as a tennis player, frankly. But and there was another kid that I taught who he served lefty and then played the rest of his game righty. And man, he threw some of his opponents for a loop. Because they couldn't quite figure out what he was doing for a while.
Well, you talk about in the book, I mean, if you can do this equally well, you could start obviously twice as many games, because if you're pitching from the other arm, you could, maybe 60, 70 starts a year rather than the 25 to 35 starts a year, right?
Yeah, I did quite a bit of research for this, and I talked to a bunch of baseball people, and almost every one of them thought it would still be a little too much to double it up, because he'd still have to do a lot of work to rebuild his leg muscles and his butt muscles and his back muscles and that sort of thing. But so we came up, I came up with this number somewhere in the 50s, as opposed to 60 starts or something like that. But yeah, it was an interesting conversation for a lot of baseball people to have with me.
I wonder why there aren't more of this. Do people bat left-handed and throw right-handed and vice versa? Is it something to do with the brain that doesn't allow you to throw equally with either or both arms? I just wonder why that would be.
I really do think, just from the minimal research that I've done, I really do think that people can be if it's caught early enough, if I do believe that there is a kind of window for ambidexterity early on, and in all these examples, I think everybody, like from Greg Harris to Pat Venditti, they would probably tell you that they just started this early on, and some of them just out of their own interest, and some of them out of their parents' interest and their interest in having a national caliber athlete growing up in the house with them. But I think that the difference between the switch hitting is that's all. My son is a pretty good switch hitter too, and really the only time he kind of works on that though is when we go to the cages. Whereas this kind of insistence on that righty on throwing that way, it's just every time you throw a ball, there's got to be. I figured that there would have to be this equal insistence on both the arms in order to do it. It just seems to require a great deal more attention through life.
And you have an interesting background. You're a teacher, right? A literary teacher. Was it high school that you teach at, Billy?
Yep.
Of writing, and so that's kind of interesting. You've also taught at UCLA, and this is your first novel. I know you've written a couple other books. What's been the reaction for you? Have you heard anything from any Major League Baseball teams or players at all about the book so far?
I haven't yet. The closest I came was actually to email contact with Pat Venditti, who was interested in it right off the bat, and he would have been great to talk to, and his dad about it too would have been great to talk to beforehand, because I'm sure some of the little anecdotes would have changed. So I've heard from some people in the baseball world, but mostly the sort of behind-the-scenes guys who are like baseball nuts and helped me figure out some facts that I got wrong in the book. And they're pretty good about letting me know where I was wrong. But the other thing that's different about it is it's just, it's a hardcover book. My first books were independent presses, one out of Other Voices Press, and the other one was a tiny college press called Bookmark Press at the University of Missouri, Kansas City.
Right.
And they're just not as available. You walk into your bookstore right now, your neighborhood bookstore, and you might see the man with two arms, but the other ones you're not going to see there. So I think what's happened is that more people will pick this one up just because they pass it by and they like baseball, or it looks interesting, or something like that. It's just a little more widely available, which is it's been nice. So I've been hearing from some more random people who just picked it up in like Arkansas or Boston or Florida,
I know Bob Costas did a nice little blurb for you on the front, and maybe you can have it on his show. That might help, right?
Oh, that would be great. Anything like that will help. The sooner I'll be able to quit my day job here,
That's
which
right.
will keep me away from writing.
Well, Billy, give out your website. Again, it's a baseball book, but it's also a book about family relationships and kind of the interworkings of how that goes on, how two parents can groom a child, perhaps to greater success, and what are the costs of that. But give out a website, Billy. People will get more information about you.
They can hear more about me at www.billylombardo.com, and I also have a high school literary magazine that's a national literary magazine called Polyphony HS, and that's polyphonyhs.com, and that's for high school writers and editors across the country, and we dip into 10 or 12 other countries as well.
Great. Billy, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. The book is called The Man with Two Arms, and good luck with it, and we'll talk to you down the road. When your next book comes out, we'd like to have you on again.
Great, Doug. It'd be great to talk to you. See you.